Okay, so in 3.1 we talked about what a transversal is. We talked about the parallel line postulate, the perpendicular line postulate, and then we identified corresponding angles, alternate interior, consecutive interior, which is the same thing as same side interior, and alternate exterior. So this warm-up starts by saying to name the pairs of corresponding angles from the diagram in this top corner. Who can give me a pair, Omar?
1 and 3.
Angle 1 and angle 3. Jessica.
5 and 7.
Angle 5 and 7. Allison.
2 and 4.
2 and 4. And the last one, Emily.
6
6 and
and 8.
8. Good. Questions on those? All right. Number 2 says name the pair of alternate interior angles. Francisco. Yeah. My word. I'm so sorry. Fernando.
Angle 2 and angle 7.
Angle 2 and angle 7. Omar.
Angle 6 and angle 3.
Angle 6 and angle 3. Okay, number 3, name the pairs of consecutive interior, same side interior color.
Angle 2 and
Angle 2 and
angle 3.
angle 3. Alexis.
6 and 7.
Angle 6 and angle 7. Good. Okay, number 4 says the figure at the right shows a painting easel. Does line AB appear to be parallel or perpendicular or skew to line CD? Emily. So think about this in 3D. I know this is really hard because this is an easel, right? Have you ever seen an easel? Right? So if I've got this backdrop, right, and then it leads down, what do you know about the 2 legs in the front of it? They'd be a little bit forward, right? You with me? On the top of that. Does that make sense? Okay. So the question is, could you make a plane from those? Could I connect these like this? And the answer is yes. So if I can, and they're not touching, then what were they, Emily? Parallel. Does that make sense? Yeah? So if I had a segment running, like back and forth, if there was like an attachment on the bottom that was running back and forth, that would be an example of skew, right? They would not be like the top of the easel and the one back and forth would be skew. Okay, something like that. Anything else would be intersecting because the legs would hit the top, which would be intersecting. All right, so chapter 3, section 2 is called Parallel Lines and Transversals. So there's a lot of carryover from yesterday. You have to know all the stuff that we knew yesterday, but now we're going to learn specific things that are special if those lines are parallel. So all of these 4 postulates or theorems, because some are postulates and some are theorems, all begin the same way, and they say if 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then corresponding angles are congruent, and that's called the corresponding angles postulate. Alternate interior angles are congruent, and that's the alternate interior angles theorem. Alternate exterior angles are congruent, which is the alternate exterior angles theorem. And same side interior angles are supplementary. And remember, same side is the same thing as consecutive interior. So some books use same side and some books use consecutive. Okay? Those are supplementary. So notice the first 3 pairings are congruent and the last one is supplementary. So because they have names, you can use them. You're definitely going to use these in proofs. So you want to get familiar with them, okay? But sometimes, like corresponding angles postulate, sometimes it's shorter to just write, if the lines are parallel, corresponding angles are congruent. So don't stress too much about the name of it. Because some are postulates, some are theorems, right? Well, just the corresponding angles is a postulate, but the rest are theorems, okay? If you forget if it's supposed to be a postulate or a theorem, then write out what it says. Okay, and I'll give you a couple of shorthand notes, like I'll use parallel lines, like there's a symbol for parallel lines, you can use the symbol for congruent, and you can abbreviate those words, okay? So what it says is what's important, not the name of it. So corresponding angles, alternate interior and alternate exterior are all congruent if the lines are parallel. So they have to start with parallel lines. And then same side interior would be supplementary. So you'll see this is just a diagram, and how do I know that those lines are parallel? Those little arrows, okay? You can have more than one pair of parallel lines, and they would be marked by one arrow would match one arrow, two arrows would match two arrows, okay? In this case, I've only got one pair of parallel lines, but I have two transversals, right? So when it says to find the measure of each angle, start with your diagram. So before I even get to the measure of each, I'm going to come over here to my diagram, okay? And remember, we've got our special angles that are the four we just talked about, but we also have in this diagram what other special angles? Fernando. Perpendicular. What else? Skew, but skew's not going to help me with angle measurements, right? Emily. Right angles. What else? What other special angle relationships are there? Leah. How do you know they're supplementary? But how would you know what angle is supplementary with that angle? What are they called? Nope. Nope. Outside of those four. Before this section, before yesterday's section, what other two special angle pairs do we know? Orel. Linear pair postulate tells me that any two that are next to each other that form a line are going to be 180. There's one more. Vertical angles. Thank you. Don't forget about those things. They're going to carry over. So if I had given you this diagram and I had not said anything about the parallel lines, what angle measurements could you have already given me? What's 50? 5 is 50 and 7 is 50. What other angle measurement could you give me, Madison? 6 is 130. So to get to the other transversal, I have to have the parallel lines, right? But if I didn't have any of that, I could have at least got those three. You with me? Now, because they are parallel, go through all your angle measurements. So corresponding is congruent, and right there I could fill in all four. Are you with me? So 1 would be what? 50, because it matches 5. 2 would be 130. 3 would be, and 4 would be. So I only need one angle measurement and I can get 8 if they are parallel lines. Now this is a different transversal, okay? And these lines are not parallel, so I can't carry any of the measurements from the right hand side to the left. But what I was given on the left is 2 right angles, right? So if this is 90, then 8 is 90. And what else is true? Jessica.
All of them are 90.
All of them are 90. Why?
Because it's all right angles.
So these are 2 perpendicular lines, which means all 4 angles are 90 degrees. It should be consistent with your corresponding angles being congruent, your vertical angles being congruent, your linear pair being 180, and your same side interior being 180. Okay? So all those different angle pair relationships still exist within these parallel lines. These 2 angles would be what relationship? Consecutive interior or same side interior, right? And what do we know about same side interior if the lines are parallel? They're supplementary, right? 50, 130 are going to add up to 180. Does that make sense? So now I've got all the information about all these angles. It should take me like 10 seconds to fill in which one's which. So angle 1 is what? 50. Angle 2 is? Angle 3. Angle 4. Angle 5. Angle 6. Angle 7. And angle 8. So look for your angle pair relationships, your vertical angles, your linear pair, your corresponding. So vertical angles congruent, corresponding congruent, alternate interior congruent, alternate exterior congruent. And then same side interior, consecutive interior, and linear pair are both going to be supplementary. Okay, these little arrows tell you that these 2 lines are parallel. And then there's a little arrow going this way telling you that these 2 lines are parallel. So you've got two pairs of parallel lines going on there. All right, so who can establish a relationship for me? Go ahead, Nicholas.
Well, the angle to the right of that one?
The angle to the right of the 110.
Yeah.
Yep, is 70 because those are linear paired. Okay.
And then the vertical angle is 110 also.
Okay.
70.
Okay.
And then you just fill the rest in, all the same.
How? How are they all the same? So how would I match X with something? What would X match with? Y. Good. X would match 70, so X would be 70. Okay. How would I solve for 2Y? Alexis. So 2Y would match this angle over here, right? You with me? And that angle would be 70 because these two are corresponding, right? So 2Y would equal 70, and Y would equal 35. And then the last one, 2Z here, I could either go on the transversal above it to 110, those would be corresponding, or I could say 2Z plus 70, these two are same side interior, right? So 2Z would equal 110, and Z would equal 55. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. You could go from right to left, you could go from top to bottom because there are two pairs of parallel lines. Any questions on any of those? Alexa?
Is that what the 2 means? Like, is it 2 and you just divide it?
Yep. It's saying 2 times that angle would equal the other angle. So 2 times Y would equal 70, which means Y would equal 35. So we're pulling the algebra. Okay, this one says, when the sunlight enters a drop of rain, different colors of light leave that drop at different angles. This process is what makes a rainbow. For violet light, the measure of angle 2 would be 40 degrees. So this one here is 40 degrees. What's the measure of angle 1, and how do you know? What's the relationship between angle 1 and angle 2? What are they called? Alternate interior. And what's true about alternate interior angles? If these lines are parallel, they're congruent. So the measure of angle 1 is 40 degrees. Again, in order for this to work, these had to be marked as parallel, which they were. If they weren't, you would not know anything about the measure of angle 1. Questions overall. So if the lines are parallel, give me which pairs are congruent. If the lines are parallel, there's 3 types of angles that are congruent.
Alternate exterior.
Alternate exterior.
Alternate interior.
Alternate interior.
Same side.
Nope.
Corresponding.
Corresponding. Good. The one that is supplementary is same side interior. Okay? So 3 pairs are congruent, and they should look congruent. Like if you look at parallel lines, one's going to be a little acute, sort of, and the other one that looks acute, hopefully that helps you kind of match them up. Okay? They may not be drawn exactly to scale, but they should be relative, whether it's acute or obtuse. Okay? All right.